Hello everyone. This film presents a comprehensive look at Operation Gibraltar, a major irregular warfare campaign launched by Pakistan in the summer of 1965 in Jammu and Kashmir. The analysis blends historical context, sector-by-sector narration, command decisions, and lessons for modern conflict, in language accessible to both professionals and citizens worldwide. In the first half of 1965, the ceasefire line, today called the Line of Control, witnessed sustained friction. Between January and May, approximately 1,800 firing incidents were recorded, a clear sign that the status quo was under strain. By June and July, the daily rate had climbed to 6 or 7 incidents, signaling likely activation of a broader plan in Kashmir. These numbers matter because in irregular conflict, tempo is a warning indicator. The pattern suggested preparation, reconnaissance, and probing to map Indian reactions and vulnerabilities. Within this evolving environment, Pakistan approved Operation Gibraltar, a plan to insert irregulars into Kashmir to incite rebellion, disrupt administration, and impose military costs on India. The concept drew inspiration from historical guerrilla operations, yet it underestimated local dynamics and the Indian Army's readiness to counter infiltration. A grand design on paper, its success depended on rapid movement, surprise, and local collaboration, all of which proved hard to secure in practice. Pakistan's plan formed around a force of roughly 4,000 personnel in January of 1965, under Major General Akhtar Hussain Malik, General Officer commanding 12th Infantry Division. The organization was modular, 9 task forces, each allocated to a specific geographic sector. At company level, a typical structure combined 35 to 40 Pakistan-occupied Kashmir regulars, 66 mujahids from local recruitment, and 3 to 4 Special Services Group commandos for specialist roles including demolition and sabotage. Commanders received wireless sets and codes, 5 to 6 days of cooked rations, and funds in Indian currency, premised on building local support thereafter. Senior leadership delivered motivational addresses in July and August to reinforce resolve before execution. This design offered flexibility but also carried risk. Heterogeneity in training, discipline, and motivation can complicate control. In irregular warfare, cohesion and shared fieldcraft are as critical as weapons. Mixed composition strains unit identity and esprit de corps. The dependency on local support introduced another uncertainty. If support failed, logistics would degrade and momentum would stall. Formal training began only in May, leaving 2 months to prepare for complex high-altitude operations. Commando schools at Shinkuri, Mangbayari, Dungi, and Saksar provided instruction, but the short window limited acclimatization, terrain orientation, and language familiarization. Selection often did not prioritize Kashmiri language skills or deep local knowledge, critical assets for blending in and sustaining operations behind lines. Historical analogies can inspire planning, but without careful adjustment to terrain, culture, and adversary, they can mislead. The result here was a gap between concept and field reality. Directive tasks to infiltration groups included destroying bridges, culverts, and road communications to slow Indian reinforcement cycles, raiding ammunition depots, supply dumps, and commands to disrupt the Indian sustainment base, ambushing patrols and convoys to generate uncertainty and erode freedom of movement, distributing arms to civilians to provoke uprisings and overwhelm local administration, and imposing a perception of crisis that would amplify political pressure and international scrutiny. Such missions are designed to create cascading disruption, but their success requires synchronized action, timely intelligence, and assured exfiltration corridors. Absent those conditions, small groups become isolated and vulnerable to countermoves. On 2 August, a civil-military liaison conference convened in Srinagar. Leaders completed a ground truth assessment and issued measures to raise operational readiness. Key steps included reorganizing forces along the line of control to cover tactically important approaches, placing screens under direct army control, and avoiding penny packet dispersal of troops, raising militia companies to replace police in sensitive areas and resiting exposed villages to complicate infiltration routes, intensifying interaction with local populations along the ceasefire line to build morale and sharpen intelligence, encouraging civilians to cultivate up to the line to maintain presence and deter covert movement, and raising additional guards and rationalizing defense of vulnerable installations. These measures hardened the environment for covert movement. The Indian approach emphasized concentration of force at decisive points, rapid reinforcement, and empowerment of local networks as eyes and ears. This created a hostile operating picture for any infiltrator reliant on stealth and sympathetic terrain. The first confirmed infiltration report came on 5 August from Gulmarg, flagged by a local Gujar, Shri Mohammed Din. Subsequent reports identified groups in Bandipur, Tata Pani, Dunga Gali and Rajouri and Dua and Chham. Attacks were registered against pickets at Gali, .603 and .604 in the Punch sector, and a raid took place on a field company position at Jorian. Panic among some civilian populations was noted near Magam and Trajhin as rumors spread, demonstrating how psychological effects accompany kinetic operations. Indian conceptual response was immediate: detect, encircle, neutralize. Follow-on offensive operations would target bases and launch pads to eliminate the threat at source. The defensive layer denied easy targets, the offensive layer aimed to remove staging areas. The combination frustrates small units that rely on surprise, hit-and-run, and rapid melt-back into safe zones. Tariq force moved in the Kargil-Sonamarg-Ganderbal arc, using valleys such as Suru and sectors around Dras to strike. Their actions against bridges and waterworks sought to stress the Srinagar-Leh line of communications. However, Indian reinforcement and clearing operations progressively shut down these options. Qasim force, split into Murtaza and Sikandar elements and supported by Northern Scouts, operated in Gurai's sector under 19 Infantry Division boundaries. Its operational impact remained minimal, and exfiltration occurred early when momentum was lost. Khalid force with 300 to 400 personnel raided Nagam battalion headquarters, bridges, and ammunition points. Plans to block Tangdhar traffic failed to mature when Indian units diverted the necessary reserves to Sanjay's defense and countered attacks in time. F Force comprised 3 companies in Rampur, 2 focused on Bedori defenses and 1 targeted the Mahura water channel. Activity was limited and resulted in minor disruptions before counter-infiltration measures took hold. Salahuddin force was the largest, about 400 to 500 personnel organized in 5 companies, plus an additional company from Khalid force. Its tasks included establishing a base at Buna Danwas, enrolling youth for sabotage, striking the Srinagar, Badgam area including the air station and raiding Baramullah's divisional headquarters and bridges. Despite establishing presence near Gulmarg and Badgam, the force was broken into small groups by Indian reactions and struggled to sustain pressure or hold ground. Man force, drawn from Salahuddin, operated in Mandi, Laran of Punch sector. It captured the Gali picket briefly but was quickly evicted by a counterattack from 52 Infantry Brigade, illustrating how swift local superiority can reverse tactical surprises. In the Punch, Rajouri, Chham Belt, Nusrat, Ghaznavi and Babar forces infiltrated through Mandi, Mendhar and Rajouri sectors aiming to link up at bridges such as Kalai. Nusrat with 5 companies raided headquarters 120 Infantry Brigade but was neutralized. Ghaznavi, operating in Budhill, Kandi, Thana Mandi Gulabgar areas had limited impact and was evicted. Babar force, approximately 400 personnel, launched a raid in Jorian with some elements reported near Risi, Udhampur, but was ultimately contained and cleared. Indian formations executed a deliberate but fast redeployment cycle. 68 Infantry Brigade shifted to Tangmarg, and 52 Infantry Brigade to Rajouri, readying counterinfiltration roles. On the night of 9th and 10th August, in response to activity in Kargil, Pashkian, Shamsha and Suru, 121 Independent Infantry Brigade was activated. Lieutenant General Harbaksh Singh ordered the clearance of key features, .13620, Saddle and Black Rocks which dominate the Srinagar-Leh axis. By 10th August, reinforcements reached designated areas and clearing operations commenced. Passes like Chor Panjal, Devahari Gali and Jamianwali Gali were occupied to block exfiltration. By 13th August, options were being developed for Hajipir and Taithwal operations, and momentum lay firmly with Indian forces. Headquarters Sri Force under Major General Umrao Singh was established at Srinagar to coordinate anti-irregular operations valley-wide, relieving 19 Infantry Division for offensive roles. On 15th August, Indian troops captured .13260, Saddle and Black Rocks in Kargil, removing threats to the Leh Road. In Chham, infiltrators attempted to create confusion with raids on Palanwala and nearby posts, but the increased pace of Indian operations pointed to a larger Pakistani design already being blunted. By 17th August, assessments indicated the situation would be brought under control. Instructions were issued for elimination of remaining infiltrators in the valley, blocking ingress corridors and capturing Haji Pir while reoccupying Dua. 15 Corps was accordingly tasked to take Haji Pir, the major base for infiltration operations, closing the most critical gateway. Analysts identify several decisive factors. Local support did not emerge at scale. Without it, infiltrators lacked shelter, guides, supplies, and trusted intelligence. Early detection by civilians and forces negated surprise. Preparation windows were too short. 2 months is inadequate for high-altitude irregular operations against prepared regular troops, especially where language, terrain, and culture present steep learning curves. Indian presence and reserves in the valley were underestimated. India could rapidly engage multiple infiltration points without thinning the ceasefire line defenses, nullifying the strategy of dispersal. The operational theater's vastness dispersed Pakistani effort. Attempting action everywhere created decisive mass nowhere. Economy of effort and concentration were missing. Despite initial intelligence gaps, Indian reaction was swift and effective. Civilians provided maximum information early, enabling rapid containment. Force composition, regular leadership over mixed Azad Kashmir troops with a sprinkling of SSG, lacked homogeneity, cohesion, and sustained morale under stress. Once local support faltered, logistics and staying power collapsed. In sum, Operation Gibraltar, while ambitious, rested on assumptions that did not match ground reality. The result was a campaign that began with scattered successes but ended with withdrawal and failure to achieve strategic aims. Indian planners acknowledged an initial lack of intelligence. The first clear indication came with captures on 5th August, and the intelligence picture matured only by 20th August. Yet in the valley, locals proved invaluable, acting as the eyes and ears of the army, reporting movements and providing early warning. This cooperation became a cornerstone of detection and interdiction. Counter-infiltration measures covered the entire spectrum from local defense organization and raising HQ3 force to coordinated valley-wide operations. Timely movement and employment of reserves to anticipated flashpoints isolated guerrillas and prepared the ground for elimination. The doctrine detect, encircle, neutralize, strike bases demonstrated the synergy between static defense and mobile offense in irregular warfare. Maps from the period display the infiltration spines of Tariq, Qasim, Khalid, F. Salahuddin, Man, Nusrat, Ghaznavi, and Babar forces. Overlaying these routes with Indian redeployment shows why the campaign stalled. Choke points were secured, passes were occupied, and approaches were dominated by observation and fire. Every time a group sought to mass, Indian forces arrived with superior local strength and broke it into small, manageable fragments. The principal lessons resonate well beyond the 1960s. Irregular campaigns succeed only when local support is authentic and sustained. Intelligence, not assumption, must inform that calculus. Training must be tailored to terrain and culture. 2 months is insufficient for high-altitude irregular warfare against a ready adversary, and concentration of effort is vital. Dispersed, penny-packet action creates tactical engagements but rarely strategic outcomes. Civil-military integration is decisive. Local networks shorten the sensor-to-shooter loop and diminish sanctuary for infiltrators. Flexible reserves are the backbone of counter-infiltration. Rapid redeployment and initiative at brigade level can reverse tactical shocks and restore theater control. Operation Gibraltar remains a significant study in the friction between plan and reality. Pakistan's concept hinged on speed, stealth, and support that did not consolidate. India's response aligned civil energy with military action, reorganizing defenses, moving reserves at speed, integrating local intelligence, and striking bases. The valley's security held because people and soldiers acted together to deny space and time to infiltrators. The legacy of this episode is not only historical, it is instructional for any era that confronts the challenges of irregular conflict in difficult terrain. Thank you for watching this extended analysis of Operation Gibraltar. For more deep dives into history, strategy, and the human elements of conflict and peace, stay tuned. Like, share, and subscribe Pathshala for more such descriptive history videos.